Yes, yes, let's get started. So, welcome everyone. I am Rachel Chase. Welcome to the Creative Empowerment Show, Invoking Radical Love, with me, your host, here on the Transformation Talk Radio Network. I'm so grateful to be with you all here today. So, stick around for an hour and we will be just kind of talking about these things we're going through right now. I want to welcome everyone on Facebook who's watching and welcome everyone on live radio who's listening. And if you end up listening to this sometime in the future, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcast or any of the other ways that this will be recorded, you can listen later too, of course. And I do encourage you to do so, especially if you are doing something else or busy right now and maybe not able to participate in some of the more guided meditations and healing journeys that I'll be bringing through in my radio show podcast. And today we're talking about this core of love within us all and accessing the core of love within and finding out what that might mean. What is the core of love within, and how do we get there, and why does it matter? I know so many people are going through a lot right now. I just want to give a heart shout out to those who are dealing with the fires right now in California. I have some friends out there who have been evacuated, and I know that you are still waiting to get back into your homes. So sending you lots of love. And my friends in Texas and Louisiana waiting for Hurricane Laura to come. Bless you all. My heart is with you. As you know, many of you know, many of you may not know yet. I'm in Orlando, Florida. And we're usually preparing for hurricanes around this time too, which a couple weeks ago we were, and then it was kind of a false alarm for us, but that's how it goes, these hurricane seasons. So today y'all, I'm just in this real kind of heart space myself, and just going to bring you into my own kind of raw, real emotions today, because I know that we all have them. And I know that it's that time. We're all going through a lot of kind of confusing times, what to do, how to be, how to feel. Is it okay to even process our own personal stuff? While there seems to be so much more important things to tend to right now. But from where I sit, as a healer, a helper, a coach, a counselor, it's all the same. It's all connected. The more relevant, important social topics that are coming up right now are just as relevant and important as your own inner experience of yourself and your healing journey. And so I'm going to share a little bit more personal stuff on this episode. This is episode 4 of my show. And the first 3 episodes, we started touching on kind of what my work is about, what my healing work, what my coaching work, mentoring work is about. And I talked about in the first episode these sort of 4 pillars of resilience and what they're about, and a little bit of how they apply to my own life, intuition and inspiration and listening within ourselves, and creating space for healing and nurturing. Nurturing is really a big part of, I think, what is called for right now. And so we'll look a little bit at that today. And, another thing I talked about in my last episode, my last couple episodes, is this idea of finding this courageous place within you to connect with your inner wisdom, and to trust that you have that inner wisdom, and to be able to take inspired action, and what inspired action might even be, from day to day to day to day, and what that has to do with creative empowerment. So from my own life experience as an artist and a creative being, what I've seen help most for me is being able to express the hurt in some way. So when we're talking about healing, what are we healing? Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual healing. What does that look like? And I believe that it's an individual process. Each person is different. Your way of working through what you need to work through is going to be different than mine, is different from the next person. But yet there are some universal themes. There are some themes that seem to be all pervasive, that seem to be the common ground for working through trauma, working through self-exploration, getting to know ourselves more deeply. And finding our way into the heart seems to be the fundamental thing that cracks the code to growth and well-being. So if you're interested in finding that space, that's what we're here to do today, finding that heart space. And there's a question that's been coming up in my community, I've noticed, around forgiveness and how to forgive. And, on the one hand, it sounds so like, yeah, just forgive and forget, just let it go. Just forgive it. And what is forgiveness? When I started looking at forgiveness in my own life, I had a mentor and explained to me really what it asked me. They asked me what this person asked me, what is the definition of forgiveness? Do you even know what it means in the dictionary sense? And really, a lot of you may already know this already, but let's consider this. Let's use this as a way to contemplate the possibility of coming into the heart space by way of clearing whatever's in the way of that. And one of the things that can be in the way of that is resentment. And resentment is what we're looking at when we're looking at forgiveness. So the process of forgiveness can be different for each person. Of course, we go our own way with things. We're searching and exploring, and maybe we don't want to forgive. Maybe part of us just doesn't want to let go of the resentment. And it's funny because my first episode of my show is called Rachel's Art of Letting Go, which is kind of a paradox, because I'm not saying let go of your past, because your past makes you who you are. Our past is what we have that makes us who we are. So how can we integrate it and even possibly get to the point where we're proud of the fact that we got to learn and grow through those things, even the things that were painful and hurtful? I'm going to share a little bit about what some of those were for me personally today in a little bit. But the definition of forgiveness is to let go of resentment. So just let that sit for a moment. I talked a little bit about this, I think, in the second episode with Pat. Dr. Pat and I talked about Hooponopono, which is a powerful native Hawaiian process. It's a prayer, really. And it's a way of forgiving self, other, and receiving forgiveness. It's a self-healing tool. But today we're looking at it from this perspective of, okay, so if forgiveness is letting go of resentment, now it doesn't take away the fact that maybe it still hurts that happened. Okay, so there's still hurt. So let's think about that. Now, are we trying to get rid of the hurt? And so many people, I mean, gosh, who wants to be in pain, right? Nobody. We don't want to hurt. We don't want to be hurt. This is something we try to avoid. This is something we try to fix if it's been done. This is something we try to forget about if it happened. So the term forgive and forget, I've been thinking a lot about that one too. Forgive and forget. Now, I don't know about that. I'm wondering, and I want to wonder in that with you. I think it's good to wonder about things. It's good to re-examine old belief systems and kind of wonder about the full validity and truth of some of those things. You know, forgive and forget. How many times have you tried to do that? Forgive and forget. And then what happens when you start to remember again? Yeah. What happens when you start to remember again the thing that you tried to forget? You know? So I don't know about that forget part. We're going to go on a break in just a little bit here, but before we do, just think about this idea of forgive and forget, and think about what it might be like if you could simply let go of the resentment of something. We're also going to look at how hurt is a natural part of human life, and how can we get to the place of just accepting it and allowing ourselves to process the emotion of it without over analyzing, overthinking, working so hard in the mental sphere. So when we come back in just a bit, we're going to go there together and work through a little bit of acceptance and look at this idea of forgiveness and come back into the core of the heart. And stay tuned for the end of the show, because I'm going to do an invocation and meditation for us. It's going to be really beautiful and powerful. All right, so I'll see you guys in a little bit. All right, so we're back. Welcome back. I'm Rachel Chase, Creative Empowerment Show, Invoking Radical Love. So we are talking a lot about that today, invoking radical love. Yeah, and you can visit my website, rachelchase.com. You can see more about my work and my story there, and book a session, healing session or coaching session, or just reach out if you have any questions. I'd love to hear from you. So today we're talking about this core of love within and accessing it. So accessing it, what does it take to get there? And here's another question I'm going to bring in. We're kind of looking at this question of how do we forgive and what is forgiveness and letting go of resentment, and just thinking about what happens when we try to forgive and forget, but we can't forget. Because how can we? Really, we're human. We're not going to forget it. In fact, that might not be the best thing. Now, in the moment when a trauma happens, sometimes it's just what naturally transpires. It's part of the process of our brains keeping ourselves able to continue on to the next thing. And so sometimes we forget, but then the body might remember. And we might wonder why we're experiencing things like chronic pain or out of the blue anxiety attacks or panic attacks, or a deep lethargy, or that, that thing that's just of chronic fatigue, they call it. What's going on there? Maybe something happened that was sort of unprocessed. Maybe there's digestive issues, and you go to the doctor again and again and again, and they can't find out what's wrong with you. But then you come to find out maybe that it's your emotions. They're knocking on your door. They're trying to tell you something. So this next question I'm going to bring in is one that is real personal for me. And I'll share just a little bit of this story today, and talk more about it later in other episodes too. And I write about it on my website. If you go to my website, rachelchase.com, you'll see my story, and it goes into a little bit more detail of the flow of things. But today I'm going to talk about something that's not necessarily in that story. And here's the question. When love hurts, how do you love yourself? When love hurts, how do you love yourself? So you might say, well, what do you mean by that? What love? What hurts? And why do I need to love myself? So I'm going to kind of bring this back to forgiveness. And from where I sit, all forgiveness is self-forgiveness. Even when you are doing it, quote, for someone else. You're always doing it for yourself. Always. Letting go of resentment is, and some of you probably have heard this before too, not about them. It's about you. Doesn't mean that it doesn't still hurt though. So what do we do with that? And so I'm going to share a little bit about a story that happened to me in my early 20s. Some of you may know, and when you read on my site there, my story about the fact that I grew up in a fundamentalist cult, essentially. And my parents didn't get out of it till I was 13. I had a lot of anger and resentment toward my parents because it was a very confusing time. What is real? We left this ideology that says, this is how you live your life, this is who you are, and this is what it means. Then we leave, and suddenly none of that is real. And so at 13, I went through, 12, 13 I call it my God crisis moment. And some of you might be able to relate with that. I've heard other people share stories about around that age. They start to question things and wonder what is, if this isn't true, well, what is, and maybe start to disconnect. And so that's when I started going into kind of a disconnect with my connection with life. Now, some of you may say, well, I'm not really a spiritual person, so I don't really identify with that. But for me, I call it my disconnect with God. But you can think of it as just disconnecting with joy of living, disconnecting with a sense of meaning in life, disconnecting with the sense that there's something going on in life that is taking care of me, that I can trust in. So I went through that, started at 13. And after high school, I met someone, fell in love, moved in with him. And so was with him for a couple of years, but it was a very destructive situation. And I was madly in love. We were both madly in love. And but there was a lot of pain in him and me. And he spiraled out and got pretty heavy into drug addiction. And I was going there too. So I got out because I could see the writing on the wall that if I didn't get out, that my days were numbered. And so when I left, he actually came to me to ask me if I would come back. And that, of course, he was going to straighten himself up and be okay, but he didn't have those tools. He was also very ill, he had bipolar, very severe bipolar that might have been triggered by some drugs too early, taking drugs too early, psychedelics. And so anyways, there was a lot of pain there. He came back to ask me back, and I said, no, I can't go back. I need to save myself. And then about a month later, he overdosed and died. Now, I don't want to just bring us all down in the dumps. I know this station is a lot about positivity, and that's where I'm going with this, okay? But I'm bringing us there because I know many of you can relate with this story too, that you've had a lot of loss too. You've had great loss. So how do we deal with our loss? Now, for me at that time, I spiraled out. I didn't have the tools and support. So I went into a pretty deep darkness for quite a while. And that loss really triggered that for me, this darkness. I got to a point where I was not doing very good health-wise. I wasn't taking care of myself because I felt this immense guilt for his death. And that's me taking on responsibility for someone else's life. But I was young. I didn't know. And I know that even if you're not young, that connection that we have with those that we love is so strong that we feel responsible. We feel responsible for their well-being. We feel responsible for their lives. And if their lives are lost, then we feel like, and in my case, I felt like I could have saved him. If I would have stayed with him, he wouldn't have died. It would have gotten better. It could have been okay. So I was really, really not even conscious that I was doing this, but beating myself up for that. And so that really was the catalyst for why I didn't really have a way or feel that it was necessary to take care of myself. But, the thing for me is that I always had this nudge inside ever since I was a little girl. And I have deep memories of when I was a toddler of being, guided by something more than me, guided by something bigger than me. And it would always kind of come around right when I needed it, right in that moment, to remind me to wake up that, okay, my angels or whatever you want to call them, they're like, okay, we're here for you. We're going to get you out of a jam. We keep saving your life, but there's going to be a point in time when you need to really help us. You need to meet us halfway, and there was a moment when I finally had my millionth wake-up call when my whole body shut down. The left side of my body went numb. And that was the time when I finally realized it was up to me and I had a choice. Do I want to live or do I want to die? That it's really a choice. And if I were to choose life, that I get to do that. And that's when I started asking for help. Help. And help started arriving. Help started arriving in the form of people that were healthy for me and ways that could open me back up and reconnect me with Source. And one of those ways was through Reiki. So I know some of you may know what Reiki is. I'll talk a little bit more about that too. But let's just get into this heart space together today and remember that each and every one of our lives is valuable. That's what I mean when I talk about soul purpose. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that on the rest of the show today. I'm going to take another break here. Time for another break. You're listening to the Creative Empowerment Show with me, Rachel Chase. And we're on the Transformation Talk Radio Network. I'm so glad to be with you all here today. And we'll talk some more in just a bit. Okay, and welcome back to the Creative Empowerment Show, Invoking Radical Love with me, Rachel Chase, your host, and we're talking about accessing the core of love within today. We're talking about forgiveness. We're talking about healing the hurts. And I love that intro for Laura's show, and she was talking about when the goddess speaks, and that makes me think about those experiences in my life where I felt that I was being guided and reminded of the value of my life by something greater than me, whatever that is. And for me, it's like a voice inside my head. It's like a reassuring presence that's around. And for you, it might be more like just a gut feeling or a knowing or a truth that you have for you. We all have different ways with that. So in terms of today's show, with this idea of the core of love within and getting to that space where we can listen to the messages that are always inside of us, that takes a little bit of work. that takes some acceptance that there's going to be hurt. There's going to be pain in life. And culturally, we're not necessarily prepared for the hurt of life. We're not necessarily prepared for the fact that life is both agony and ecstasy. We definitely have a lot of systems in place to tell us that if we're hurt, then there's something wrong. There's something wrong with us, that it needs to be fixed. Now, I'm not saying that if you break your leg, don't go to the doctor and, get your leg fixed. I'm not saying, if we hurt, we don't also want to soothe that hurt. But how do we soothe is where we're getting to with this, is how can we get to the place where we can soothe ourselves through the difficulties, through the pain, that we can hold space, get to the place where we can actually hold space for both the possibility of peace and also the pain that is here. Or possibly even maybe think of it from this other angle, which says that even though there is pain, there is also I can make peace with it. I can make peace with it. How do you make peace with it? When love hurts, how do you love yourself? So let's take a breath on that for a moment. So in my case, I was given a choice, right? I could clearly hear and feel that I had that choice. And I asked for help, and help started to come. And you may not know how to ask for help, or you may not know where to go for help, or feel that if you ask for help, it's going to you're going to get taken advantage of, or you're not going to be able to receive it. That's another part of this too, is being able to receive. So today we're going to go through a process. We're going to go through a process of giving ourselves permission to direct our focus inside to the heart space. And it might feel a little bit wobbly right now with everything going on, where maybe you're feeling a little too vulnerable to do that. So if you're in that space where you don't want to go all the way in today, that's okay. Don't force yourself. You can come back to the recording and do the process again later. The thing about healing is it's like, I conceptualize it as cracking open the heart and letting whatever is there within us to flow, whether it's tears or sighs or laughter or a cathartic, just a yell to the universe that we're feeling this confusion of the injustices or whatever it is. So a little bit more of what I'm going through right now, just to kind of bring you into my world. You'll see the next shows after this. If you're watching this on Facebook Live, of course, if you're listening, you wouldn't even know. But you'll see that my background will be very different going forward, because we're in the process of moving from Florida to Oregon. And I'm bringing this up on today's show, not just because I want to say, hey, y'all, I'm moving, but because it's really relevant to the rawness that we feel. I feel super raw lately. I mean, I'm leaving behind a whole life that I've grown and built here in Central Florida to follow our dreams. We have wanted to live out west for so long. And many of you listening, I know, are up there. You're in Washington. This is your home station. You're up in the Northwest. So I'm excited to be in your neck of the woods starting next month. And I'm also feeling that very emotional, like day to day. Oh my gosh, this is a lot. Moving is a ton, especially when you're going across the country and you're 45 years old and you're going into the next phase of your life. And, so where I'm coming from as a helper and a healer is that I'm right in this thing with you. We're all in this together. I don't have it all figured out. I've learned a few things. I've gotten to the point where I've got some tools and skills and abilities and a natural way to be able to hold space for others and cradle us all in a safe, healing place where we can go through this transition that we're all in together. Humanity is in a great transition, obviously, right now. But this has been prophesized. I mean, if you talk to any astrologer, they'll tell you, oh, yeah, we've been talking about this time for a long, long time. You know, the Mayan calendar, the 2012 date. And now here we are sort of figuring out the next phase of humanity. But on the individual level, we are also going through that. And I know you're all feeling it. So I just want to normalize that on my show again and again and again and again and again, that we're all going through this muck. And also what it's doing is it's breaking us open to reveal this next level strength that we maybe didn't even know we had because we felt broken or hurt, or we felt like we didn't know how to move through all this challenge and confusion. But I'm here to say we can do this. We are doing this. And with support and connection and community and collaboration versus competition, if we can get to that place, then we're really shining. So inside ourselves is mirrored everything that's going on outside in the world. And when we're battling against ourselves inside, you better believe that's going to be projected out into the world. This is what we mean when we say, if you want to change the world, change yourself. And if we're each and every one of us willing to look inside and see those polarities and hold space for them, and breathe through it and cry through it and let go through it. Let go of the fight, against it. That's what we're letting go of. When I say let go, I mean let go of the struggle against yourself. Let go of hating parts of yourself. We all have dark parts and light parts. We all have those weird thoughts. Where do those thoughts come from? Why am I even thinking that? We all have joy and ability to express love and kindness. Now, maybe that's been covered over with hurt and layers of pain, and it's being protected and defended by anger. We might see an angry person and say, no, they don't know how to love. And we start projecting hate toward them because they're not loving enough. But that's not the way. So when we see that other person, just remember they're a mirror for something inside of you. Even the people you think you could never like or love or understand. So let's take a breath with that. I know that's a lot. And I know I go on a winding road sometimes with my words, but there's a method to my madness. There's always a method to my madness, and that's to keep bringing us back in to acceptance, to kindness, to trust, to compassion for the hurt, to even compassion for the resentment. We're not trying to get rid of anything. We're trying to love it. And when we love that resentment and give it what it needs, meaning nourish it or nurture it, what does your resentment need? What is it protecting? Maybe it's protecting something. Maybe it's keeping you safe from yourself because you don't want to feel the hurt that's behind it. But I'm telling you, when you feel that hurt, that's what's going to set you free. Feeling through it so that the emotion can move. And you know, I'm all about that, moving the emotions. I talk about that all the time. I never not talk about that. So we're going to do a little bit of that when we come back from the break. Okay, we're going to bring some of it up, do a little movement, and tune in with this invocation to really connect us all in with the core of our heart space so that can just be sent out to everyone who needs it right now. Okay. So thank you for being with me today. You're listening to the Creative Empowerment Show. I'm Rachel Chase. We'll come back in just a little bit for the closing invocation and meditation. All right, I believe we are back. Welcome back. I'm Rachel Chase. This is the Creative Empowerment Show, Invoking Radical Love. That's what I'm all about. Invoking, meaning connecting with the kind of love that breaks through those serious blocks in ourselves and in our world. That's radical love. When it's not easy love, it's radical love. I think that's where I'm coming from. You know, it's not always easy to direct the energy of kindness, compassion, and acceptance. Unconditional love is meeting everything where it is right here in this moment. So we have another 10 minutes left of our show today. I'm going to do our closing invocation. I want to give a shout out to all the women in my current spiritual warrior women's training that we're doing on Zoom, all 20 of you, and now actually 21. That's the last one I can let in at the last possible minute. It's just amazing. I plan on doing it again. So those of you listening who feel you resonate with my work, women who identify as these warriors of love in the world, that you lead with love in your families and your communities, your helpers, your healers, your artists, your teachers, your yogis, your mamas, you resonate with that, then look out for that. I'll be doing another one either at the end of this year or in the spring, and it's all online. And you can actually read about the one I'm doing now on rachelchase.com on my events page. And it'll probably be a little different, of course, every time there's a new flavor. I'm also doing a women's creative wellness retreat out here at the Atlantic Center for the Arts that is really amazing too. So I look forward to doing more of that in the Northwest. So those of you interested in those types of things, ladies, keep an eye out. And so we're going to come back into this intention for our show today, intention for our work together, really today. Every time we come together this way, it's about doing the work together. So this connecting with the core of love within. So if you're not driving or otherwise busy, sit comfortably or lie down. And you might have already gotten into that zone since the break, knowing what was coming. It's a guided healing journey. And we're just going to close the show with this beautiful experience of really integrating all of these parts of yourself that maybe you have some resentment toward, or you're feeling like it's just really hard to get in touch with those parts of yourself. And we're going to bring them all into the heart space here today. So when we do these meditations with clear intention, it is powerful medicine, powerful medicine. The most powerful medicine is within yourself, in your mind, in your heart, in your energy, in your consciousness. That's where your most powerful medicine is. And when we use our breath and our body and connect down into the emotional areas, we can set our thoughts free. We don't have to be so attached to all the thoughts running through the brain. Big breath in, everybody, and then just let it out. I'm going to do that one more time. Deep through the nose in. And sigh. We're going to do a little more diaphragmatic breathing. So on this next breath, I want you to feel that area in your rib cage down low expand nice and wide. Big breath. Consciously using that diaphragm muscle. See if you can breathe in just a little bit more and hold it there. And now let it out real slow. Real slow. We'll do that one more time. Deep breath, expand your lungs. Hold it in. Let it out. And I want you to place one hand on wherever your heart is, on the left side there. You place your right hand on your heart. Just feel the warmth of the hand on your chest. And I want you to imagine your heart is this beautiful crystal. I want you to imagine your heart is an iron crystal. Remember, our blood is filled with iron. We're electromagnetic bodies. Your heart is filled with this beautiful energy. And imagine that it is a crystal, an iron crystal. And that also the core of the very center of the earth, which we now know is an iron crystal. It's really hot in the center of the earth. And it is an iron crystal, just like your heart is also filled with that energy of little iron crystals. So we're actually connecting with the physicality in our minds of the core of the earth and the core of your own heart. Just keep breathing and connect in with the sense of your heart and the center of the earth being connected. And that your body is held in the field and the energy of this whole big, beautiful planet. That your core of your heart is inside this planetary conscious field. And that all the stray parts of yourself that have been lost in the dark or left behind, or that you worry about or you fear, or that are sort of trapped somewhere in the past, that we welcome them all into this space. We welcome all the parts of yourself into your heart space to be held in this beautiful crystalline field of love. Even the parts of yourself where you feel maybe ashamed of, or that you are angry about, or that you did wrong, or whatever it is. Just breathe for a moment and envision all those parts of yourself held in this field of love, this crystalline iron energy. And that all the beings of earth are held in that field of love in the earth, the Mother Earth energy. And that as we do this, it's awakening that part of you, that wise, compassionate one that can give you information, guidance, and assistance. And that voice is always there, that feeling is always there, that nudge is always there, that love is always there, even when there's suffering and pain all around you, that it's always there inside of you. So take a deep breath, acknowledge that it's within you. Open your eyes, relax your hands. And that is what I'm here for, to help you activate that place within you. And I look forward to more and more and more of this in future shows and working with you. Reach out, rachelchase.com. I thank you all so much today for tuning into episode 4 of the Creative Empowerment Show with me, your host, Rachel Chase. I hope this experience has fed your soul and inspired your life. And I will see you next month, every 4th Wednesday here, Transformation Talk Radio at 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Peace and blessings. Have a beautiful day.